All right, now one of Russia's most prominent human rights organizations is fighting for its survival. Memorial is facing multiple legal challenges from Russian authorities, which accuse it of being a foreign agent. Its supporters say it's being attacked for fighting totalitarianism. DW's Emily Sherwin reports now on Memorial's uncertain future.
Making those who disappeared visible. A plaque installed by the human rights group Memorial shows the final address of Ivan Shakhovskoy's great-grandfather. He was arrested and shot during the political purges of Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin in the 1930s. Ivan and his sister say it was only thanks to Memorial that they found out the details of their great-grandfather's death. The small metal plaque is one of hundreds that remind Muscovites of victims of Soviet political repression. The project immortalizes these names without shouting about it, without lots of glitz, but it marks these people's existence within the city, the country, each of these innocent people whose lives were ruined by the terrible Soviet government machine. The Soviet secret police, housed in today's FSB building, persecuted millions during the Soviet era. Memorial's archivist Alexei Makarov puts the number at around 11 million. For decades now, Memorial has been working to create a huge archive of those shot, imprisoned, or deported during Soviet times, as well as promoting human rights across Russia. But Memorial itself is under political pressure. It was labeled a so-called foreign agent several years ago. Now the prosecutor general's office wants Memorial to close. The human rights branch of the NGO has been accused of allegedly justifying extremism. The branch that focuses on history is on trial for violating foreign agent laws. These are all just technicalities. It's completely clear that the attempt to close us down is politically motivated. The authorities don't want anyone else to deal with the past. They want full control of it. The Kremlin spokesperson has refused to comment on the case against Memorial. He says the court's decision on whether or not to close the organization will be independent and has nothing to do with politics. The pressure on Memorial is part of a recent crackdown on all critical voices here in Russia. In the past few months, several NGOs, media outlets, and individual journalists have been declared so-called foreign agents. And many have compared that label to being labeled a so-called enemy of the people during the Stalin era. Back at Memorial's offices, the case to close the NGO has led to a huge outpouring of public solidarity. People have been bringing in letters of support, and an online petition to stop the closure has around 100,000 signatures. There's still a lot of work to do, so we will carry on. Maybe in a different form, maybe our work will have to be less large scale, but you can't kill memory. It will be preserved no matter what. For decades, Memorial has been pushing against totalitarianism in Russia's past and in the present. Now many observers say the case against it is a litmus test for the future of the country's whole civil society.
And we can speak to DW correspondent Emily Sherwin, who is in Moscow for us. And hopefully we'll have Emily joining us quite soon. Emily, Memorial calls the court cases politically motivated. Can you tell us why?
Well, there are currently two court cases going on in parallel against Memorial. First of all, against its human rights branch, which is being accused of justifying extremism and justifying terrorist activity. And that seems to be because they keep lists of political prisoners, including, for example, opposition politician Alexei Navalny, whose organization has been accused of being extremism. And many of the people on that list of political prisoners are also behind bars because of their religious views. For example, many of them are Jehovah's Witnesses. That group was
banned a few years ago here in Russia. So that's one side of the case. The other side of the case is what we just saw against the historical arm of Memorial. They are being accused of breaking, violating the laws around being a foreign agent. So essentially, they are being accused of not labeling their materials correctly. Those are essentially kind of administrative accusations that they didn't carry out their bureaucratic duties correctly. The Kremlin's spokesperson has insisted, as we saw, that this case isn't political, but Memorial says that these two cases are part of a concerted campaign to close this human rights organization down.
Tell us how well known and how important Memorial is in Russia, in Russian society.
I would say that Memorial is one of the most prominent and one of the oldest human rights groups here in Russia. It's really almost the example of a grassroots civil society organization here. It was founded in the late 80s, at the end of the Soviet Union, really as an initiative from the people, for the people, and even now the organization is actually more of a movement. It has dozens of branches across Russia. They do all kinds of different work, including working with orphans, working with political prisoners. There's also this huge amount of historical work that they do. They've set up a database of over 3 million victims of political repressions during the Soviet Union. So people have brought their photos, family archives to them, and so on. And you can see how important this case is to many people, judging by the reaction. So there have been dozens of human rights activists here in Russia who've come out against the closure of Memorial. We've seen over 100,000 people sign a petition against the closure, and hundreds of people were outside the court last week during one of the court cases against Memorial. So I think this is a really significant case, and many here in Russia recognize that.
All right, DW correspondent Emily Sherwin, thanks so much.